Welcome to Winners on a Wednesday, where we bring people every single week that we have helped become financially free or had their life changed through property. This week I have Josh Connett. He's got a large property portfolio, he's financially free, and we've been working together for a couple of years. So Josh, welcome to Winners on a Wednesday.
Thank you so much.
So
Pleasure to be here.
I love the cat, man. It's like a personal brand thing.
I'm the guy with the hat. It's on the business card, it's on the website. You know when you're dealing with me.
The cool thing is about you, Josh, is we booked you to come on this show a couple of weeks back.
Yeah.
And you've actually, while driving here, you've been doing deals.
Yeah.
Just tell us about the last 20 hours.
Last 20 hours. This morning was an early start. I got up. I actually hired a car because I'm a big petrol head and I have old cars. And my car wasn't going to make it up here. So for 20 quid I got a hire car. While up on the way here, I actually hit the phones. I thought, well, I'm going this way anyway. Let's see what I can do. I hit the phones. I did 2 phone calls and raised 155 grand.
You raised 155 grand. That's incredible.
There you go. On the way up, so that was fine. Yeah, agreed. Called into Bristol on the way. That's kind of on the way, and that's where I'm building up my portfolio and done many deals. And booked a couple of viewings. Saw a flat. Put an offer in. Offer accepted. Numbers are 145 worth 175. It's got brand new carpets in it already. It probably needs a boiler.
So it's just straight buy to let.
Well, I'll refinance it, put as much money out of it as I can. I'll stage it, refinance it, and then I'll strip all the furniture out. It'll be a buy to let. As it is, it will give me, I don't know, 7% return, 7-8% yield.
But you'll
as a single let.
refinance it and pull out the money.
Refinance it, pull it out, so my return on investment will be 30 plus easily.
And if you've used someone else's money, it's infinite.
Oh yeah, well, I haven't used any of my money. I haven't put any of my money into any single deal that I've done.
Wow. Listen, you have been in property for a long time. You've had some deals go really well.
Yeah.
You've had some things not go so well.
Absolutely.
Why don't you just tell us the big picture of your background and how you got started into property, and then we'll really dive into some of the deals.
Yeah, of course. Let me tell you the story. When I was 8 years old, I lived in a £1 million paid off house with my parents. There was a few of us kids, and there was an annex on the back of the house. And that was rented out for 700 quid a month. So 700 quid would literally come in cash in the back door, and we'd go into a drawer under the phone. So being 7-8 years old, I'd pull out the drawer and I'd look at all the rolls of cash that were under the phone. Those days your phone was attached to the wall, right? But I would see all the rolls of cash. That was enough to tell me if I bought property and rented it out, you'd make money.
So they did that from property?
So they did that from the annex. The back of the house was rented out. The money just went into the drawer and eventually it was taken into the bank.
Got ya.
So the meantime, I'd see all the rolls of cash and I'd be like, oh, I could buy a lot of sweets with that, I could buy schools and whatever. And it was enough to get me excited to go, all right, I want to do something in housing. So I left school, went into the building trade. I went to college. I can't even remember what I was doing, apprenticeship. I was getting paid about 100 quid a week or something like that. And I actually quit my college course and didn't tell the boss who was giving me the apprenticeship. And when it all came to light, he said to me, if you want to make it in property, this is the minimum you're going to need. So funnily enough, me and him parted company, but I got to see a house build from the ground up. So that gave me a basic understanding of everything that I need to know. Brickwork, I saw the electrics, I saw the plumbing, I was doing all the groundwork, doing the roofing, doing the tiling, being actually involved in it. So from that point of view, it was really, really valuable. Now when I'm working with trades, I have a little idea of what they're meant to be doing. So it was nice a few years later to be able to stand at front of a property meet. He didn't recognise who I was, but I recognised him and say, oh yeah, by the way, I'm doing this deal and I'm doing that deal. And that was just like a little...
So he said you need a minimum of what?
Of a college certificate in, I can't remember what it was, like building or management or
to make it in property?
Yeah, to make it in property.
Okay, we know that's not true.
We know that's not true, but it was nice to just go...
Everyone says this though. Everyone says you need this much money, you need this qualification, you need this much experience, you need this much. But actually, we know that you can, as an entrepreneur, you can start with no money, no knowledge, no network. Because I've done that.
I did that.
So people just love to make it hard.
They do. And actually, I started going to school and I had to fundraise on a daily basis. Now, the reason for this was my lunch was £2.20 for what I wanted. Pizza, chips and a bit of cheese on top. That was £2.20. My parents gave me £2 for lunch every day. So straight away, I was 10% short.
Did they do that on purpose?
No.
Couldn't you have just said to them, it's actually £2.20?
Don't cut the story short.
Oh, go on, go on.
So straight away, I had this problem. I had to get an extra 20p. So I would borrow it off people. I would try and get things and sell it. I would try and find stuff to sell it. And then I was cycling past the shops and I saw these sherbet sticks. Right, they were 10p each. You could get 12 for £1. I was like, amazing. So I bought £1 worth and I was selling them at school at the retail price, making the extra money for lunch. Once I knew I got enough people, I was then buying 2 lots and making 40p. I could pay people back that I'd borrowed 20p for. And I just started fundraising all of the time. Then that deal stopped and I was like, I'm back to this problem again. The little problems in life. But this was my education around fundraising. And then one day I was like, Mum, can I just have an extra 20p for lunch? Because, I didn't know what I was going to do. She said, oh yeah, there you go. And I went, you've got to ask.
I said that was my straight gut feeling.
It was, yeah, of course it was. and I did exactly the same when I was starting out investing.
So what did you learn from that then? Just ask people for money?
Yeah, ask.
Yeah.
If you don't ask, you don't get.
So your parents, by the sounds of it, were quite wealthy?
They were. They remortgaged their house and did a load of really, really bad investments and lost most of it.
And we met just around or just after, I think, this time as well, right?
Yeah, so they did some rubbish investments, let's be honest.
Why? Because, property is obviously a really good way to make money, but you've seen firsthand that if you do it wrong, it can...
Yeah,
what did they invest in?
They were investing, it was a set-up company that they offered off-plan investments. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know the ones, and you could go on and you could check that, ones, the apartments in the area were renting for that and it was fine and the values were that. But what they were selling you is hundreds of those and they'd build them, put them on the market, the prices dropped, no one could sell them, no one could rent them. They also invested in Spain, just before that went completely up the wall. And the surveyors were overvaluing that they were working with. And it just seemed like a bit of a nice setup for them, as opposed to everyone else. There was one year where they lent me a little bit of money and I was able to give them over £6 profit, where the whole portfolio that year had made them £34. So, property gave me opportunities and a chance to give back to them for supporting all my weird and wonderful schemes throughout the years. Yeah,
it's scary. Often I think when people lose a lot of money on property, I always think it's usually either off plan or overseas, or there's been a nasty joint venture partner involved who's screwed you. So, that can happen and it's sad. So when did you start then investing in property yourself or becoming a property entrepreneur yourself, and how did that come about? So my wake-up call was the 2007-2008 crash. Yeah. I was doing, I was actually running a motorcycle business, which I still do. But my gut feeling was, with all my experience, if you did property right, it paid you. So 2008 happened. I already knew about the 89 crash. It was terrible. House prices dropped. And I was always thinking, I need one of those to be able to buy houses. 07, 08 happened. I'd done absolutely nothing in property. And I went, it's now. And I'm missing the boat. So then it was a case of, right, what am I going to do in order to get this opportunity working for me? Everyone else was saying, terrible, houses, don't invest in those. So the first thing I did is I wrote a business plan. I knew exactly what I was going to do. And actually I didn't know what it was at the time, but it was a HMO. I'd rent the rooms out, I'd make extra. At the time you could get a residential interest only mortgage, which is what we did first off. But it was talk to as many people as possible that potentially had money in order to say, here's the plan, this is what I think I can achieve, this is what I think the profit will be, this will be your share. At the time, 13.3 and all those rules weren't as tight as they were now, so actually I could do some more creative stuff. But the point was, I did the first one, no money down, below market value for about £3,000, and I had a really strict criteria, which was it had to have a garage and a toilet where I could read the newspaper. So the first one I did like that, I found it and I bought it. So it's really interesting, Josh. It's really interesting that you saw the crash as an opportunity, because most people, if it's like, there's going to be a massive crash or there's a recession coming, will be scared by that. But you actually saw that as an opportunity. Why do you think that was?
to me, I've always been the mindset that I need to buy when everything's cheap.
Yeah.
That just came naturally since I was a kid. Always looking for the opportunity, and this just happened to be the big one.
But most people think, and it's completely illogical, but when there's a crash, people think, oh, there's been a crash, and now it's going to get worse, and houses are going to continue. Whereas actually we know that when there's a crash, it will always be followed by an expansion. So that's the time to get in.
Yeah, it is. My kind of inquisitive nature was, okay, what happened in the 80s? What happened in the crash? How did everyone lose everything? Why did they lose everything? And what happened afterwards?
Yeah.
And you can look at graphs and whatever else, and you can see the crashes and you can see the recoveries. There's enough times that this has happened for me to go, I don't know for sure, but the chances are the last 30 of those it's done this. There's a pretty good chance it's going to do this. You go back up again. Yeah, okay, I may buy before it's bottomed out, but if it takes me 6 months, a year to turn the investment around or get it rented or be able to add value, it takes me a bit of time. All the time that's going down, I'm not having to sell, and then it's going to recover at some point.
When you borrow people's money, and that's basically your strategy, has been, I think, borrowing money and then investing that money into a profitable property deal, and then you give them either a small profit share or a percentage return on investment for their deal.
Yeah, depending.
That's your strategy. Has that all been smooth sailing? Have there been bad things that have gone wrong?
Nothing's ever smooth sailing. Thankfully, I've never done a deal that's lost me money.
Yeah.
Okay. I've done a couple of deals that didn't quite go as smoothly as we'd hoped.
Yeah.
I saw this really amazing guy called Samuel Leeds who sold me a property deal, and it's been nothing but hassle.
Get out of here.
However, it has made me about 30-40 grand, so I can let it go.
And tell me the story about that, because I did sell your deal in Wolverhampton. That was how many years ago? 3 years ago?
Something like that.
So about 3 years ago. What went wrong? You say it was hassle.
Oh yeah, so any property deal has its quirks.
Yeah.
I'm just winding you up really. But the things that went wrong, every deal's got its quirks. So there was major damp all the way through. So we ripped the downstairs apart and did the damp. I got a 10-year insurance backed guarantee.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing. That was fine. And then to complete the renovations, I called in a builder who had done a previous project for me. I said, there you go, we know what to do, we worked together before, everything was fine.
But the plan, by the way, was to buy it, spend a bit of money on it, rent it as a HMO, and then refinance it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
far, you've bought it, everything's fine, you've got a builder on site.
Yeah, we got a builder on site. So a few months into the project, my mum passed away. And this was enough to allow me to take my eye off the ball. I had a father who was ill at home, and so I had a couple of things going on. And so having worked with the builder before, I then said, can you just run the site? I've had a family loss, we're most of the way through, can you just do it? And on a regular basis, he'd phone me out and go, yeah, I've done this, can you send me the next payment? So I sent him 8 to 10 grand in chunks over a couple of months when I was dealing with all the family stuff. Only to find that when I went up there, nothing had been done since the moment I left. And he had lots of holiday pictures on Facebook, which was a bit of a coincidence. So that is not a great thing, especially when I was dealing with all the other stuff. It allowed me to go, right, tighten up my systems, and that's actually when I came, right, Samuel Leeds, help me out, and I came running to you like, I'm having a disaster, can you just manage this build? And I think I just went, there are the keys, you source me the property, sort it out, I'll pay you later.
Yeah. And
you went, yeah man, no problem.
Yeah. I remember at the time, the property was a good house.
It was a great house.
And
we sourced it. I think we viewed 5 or 6 properties at the time. This one, it did have a really small room, but actually we could nick a bit by putting I
remember the house, and then obviously you had your builders doing their thing on it. And when you called me and told me what was going on, about the builders have basically abandoned the job, they've taken my money. I'm losing money on the house. I've lost money, and your mum had passed away. I remember just sort of saying, look, come to the office. Bring the keys. and then we'll sort you
we'll
out.
sort
And
it out, yeah.
I don't even think we charged you actually for that.
You
Or a cost, maybe a cost.
I think we came to some agreement. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was you know.
And because I think it just shows builders can be not only sloppy, but that's almost evil, man.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he's paying me back because he's got a CCJ against his name, bit by bit. Actually, the agreement was he was going to pay me £1 a month.
So you took him to court,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But the fact that you had to do that when your mum's just passed away.
Yeah.
I mean,
so you know,
this is about as bad as it can get.
Oh no, it gets.
Oh no.
I've had worse times, but this was the worst one on a project.
Yeah.
So then eventually, I think we paid the builder to do it again. We rented that out as a HMO.
Yeah.
We got there, everything was going fine. A couple of months in, there was a guy who was constantly drinking, throwing stuff around, like up all night, arguing with his girlfriend, who I didn't even know was living there at the time, because I got someone else to manage it. And it all came to a head when I got a phone call about 2 o'clock in the morning or something. Your tenant's beating up his girlfriend in the middle of the street, outside the house. Jeez. Okay, this would explain why so many people are coming and then gone again, because it only takes one bad apple to spoil the pie or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a battle. I was like, okay, so let's have a rethink. And actually, we changed everything to serviced accommodation.
So you changed the house to a serviced accommodation house.
Yeah, and then the first thing I managed to do was get a 6-month contract with some workers that are in the area. They were staying there, and they were paying me £500 a week.
Sorted. Yeah.
Amazing, and it's been
Interesting
been
story though. So, I mean, what are the lessons from that? I mean, firstly, the builder leaving site. I mean, because you can't physically. I mean, what we do is we have a project manager.
Yeah, that's what I need
around.
Totally.
Because you can't physically be on site, but if you're not and no one is, the builders will take the mick.
Oh, of course they will. And if you're not there, they'll, even if they do turn up, they'll turn up at 10 and go home at 2.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. You do need someone on site managing the project.
But what about the tenants? Like, what did you learn from that whole experience of having this terrible tenant that was just repulsing all the other tenants?
So it's actually about being a little bit more choosy.
Yeah.
Because of everything that was going on. I was like, oh, you want the house? Yeah. Have you got the money? Yeah. All right, come in. At the time, it was a bit hectic, let's be honest. And, in all of that, there were lots of things that I would let slip because of the situation that would never normally have happened. So it was just, there's never one thing that goes wrong, there's 2 or 3 that makes the whole situation.
Yeah.
But actually, my biggest learning was it's about your team.
Yeah.
Because if you were on your own.
Yeah. So what sort of people in your team do you need to stop that kind of thing happening?
So, well, to be honest, people like yourself, people in the area, people that can take on what you can't manage at the time.
Yeah.
And this was my introduction into outsourcing, actually. So I now have someone in the Philippines that does all of my admin, all of my invoicing, anything that I don't need to be in the country to do gets outsourced to the Philippines.
Yeah.
And that's been a revelation in itself.
And you find them on Upwork?
I actually went to a friend of mine called Imogen Cook.
Yeah.
You guys are welcome to check them out, anyone that's watching on YouTube. She actually puts adverts on Filipino job sites.
Oh, cool.
I think we had 700. So what happened was she'd got herself a VA, and she'd created this whole system from a Filipino website to create tasks. And I think her English friends were getting about 85% right in the test, and the Filipinos were getting 90 and above for the people that she'd hired.
Wow. So not only are they a lot cheaper, but they're doing a better job.
Yeah, they're doing a much better job.
Wow.
And actually, when I had my first conversation, I was like, well, what I want you to do is go into Excel and put this in here. And then she went, okay, do you want me to do an Excel online, or do you want me to just attach it to an email and fire it across to you afterwards? And I went, oh, okay, you're really good.
Because when you're running quite a large property portfolio, you've got lots of tenants, you do lots of deals, you do need, it gets to a point, if you're doing 2 or 3, but if you've got double digits, it gets to a point where you do need someone to,
Absolutely.
Otherwise it's just a job. If you're doing all the admin and it's just, because even if you've got property managers in place, just managing the property managers and keeping track of all the rents and the AST contracts, it's a job. So you do need people. I mean, I've got offices and staff, but what you're doing is almost like the 4-hour work week version.
Absolutely. I mean, I've read it and I love it. And I'll put in as much of that into my business as I possibly can.
Ironically, it takes more than 4 hours to read the 4-hour work week.
It does, yeah. But actually, I had it on audio, so when I was going to the properties, I could multitask.
So now that property then, is that still renting out nicely? Is that still going well?
Yeah, that's fine. And I haven't refinanced it yet.
How much do you buy it for?
105,250.
105. Why was it a specific figure? Do you remember? Because I think I explained at the time.
Well, it's because they go to the assumption that we've done our calculations to the number.
Yeah. If you say, I think it was on for like 125.
It was.
It was. I remember.
Yeah, you're very good.
It was on at 125.
It had been on for quite a while.
Yeah.
It had been on for at least 6 months,
Right.
and I think it started at 135 or something, and they'd come down to a point.
And then if we'd have come on and said we'll give you 105, they'd have probably said make it 110 or meet us in the middle at 115. But if we say 105 250 because it's super specific, they just thought, well, you've obviously done your numbers.
Yes.
So, and you're getting £2,000 a month rent for that. Not bad. How much do you think it's worth now? What would the value be now?
About 150 grand.
Not bad. So despite all the problems, the trauma,
absolutely,
it's worth it in the end.
We get so used to doing all these property deals, you know, phoning up, borrowing money and making offers and stuff. We forget that the average wage in the UK is about 30 grand for a year's worth of work. Yeah. 30, 35 grand, you know, I haven't looked recently, but that's roughly where you're at.
And you've made more than that on this one deal.
Yeah.
I think it's about time you refinance that deal, you know.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It'll happen towards the end of the year.
So that's this one deal, which was a nightmare. But you know what, as well, from my point of view, because I know I sold you the property. I can't remember how much, maybe 2,500 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
But
what were you doing? You were talking at Woking Pin.
Yeah.
And you said, I've got this deal, because we were chatting. Okay, you know, what are you up to? What are you talking about? And you said, I've got this deal. Okay, where is it? You know, if you want it, you send me $2.5 grand. I went, all right then.
Yeah.
So, and that was it.
But you paid me on trust without even seeing it. Yeah. But then that I then have to carry a certain weight of responsibility.
When you're dealing with other people's money, you have to.
Yeah, and even though you paid me and you hadn't even seen it, you went out, saw it, it's fine. Because you paid me on trust, I've now got the responsibility to make sure that as a client, you're looked after. And that's why...
Absolutely. And you know, and that, you know, that was worth the $2.5 grand to me.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, that's why later you have some problems. I'm going to do what I can. Of course, when you do you source properties for other people?
I do, but as you can tell, I don't source that many out because I kind of hit the phone and go, hey, look, I found a property deal. Do you want to fund it? And I end up buying them, and then so I'm flipping some. And but
when you do though, when you do source properties, I think it's so important that I don't do it anymore. And the reason I don't source properties anymore is because I've got so many students that do it. I don't want to compete with my own students, so I'd rather my investors buy off my students than buy off me now.
Yeah,
so that's why I don't really do it anymore. But I think, you know, when you do, you've just got to make sure don't pass anything on that you wouldn't buy yourself.
No, absolutely.
You know? So, or just buy it yourself if you can. If you know the skill of raising finance like you do, then buy it yourself.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. I mean, the nice thing is something like the flats that you've seen, that I bought today in Bristol. Or had offer accepted on, you can pay someone a substantial amount of interest after you've refurbed it and refinanced. You're still making money, and I've got equity in the property. If I pay that, even if I paid about all the profit, I have a property that is infinite return on my money. Yeah, because there's none of my own money. The investor's happy, and guess what? When I give the money back to them and go, hey, well, that was good. Do you want to do it again? They go, hell yeah.
I asked Robert Kiyosaki recently on an interview what he'd do if he was starting all over again with £100,000 or $100,000, and his response was, well, I wouldn't need the $100,000.
No, you don't.
Because I could just raise it, or, you know, it's kind of irrelevant having the $100,000, which I thought was a really interesting answer, and you're living proof of that. So, okay, so what are you doing right now then? What sort of properties are you buying at the moment?
So I'm actually switching a lot of my portfolio to single let.
Yeah, interesting.
Because I can refinance it out. initially you buy for cash flow. You want to get as much money in as possible to fund your lifestyle effectively.
Yeah.
But once you get to the point where you're buying, refinancing, paying people out, actually an easier life becomes slightly more important.
So are you going to keep hold of your HMOs?
Yeah.
But from now moving forward, you're just going to start buying single lets?
Yeah, I'm going to buy single lets.
Yeah.
I'm going to... Eventually, I will be turning my HMOs into 2 flats.
Okay.
Because people stay about 9 months in a HMO. They stay a couple of years at least in a flat. So certainly if it's
for cash flow, HMOs are extremely good. You cannot deny it. But they are harder work to manage than single lets. That's also undeniable. So it depends if you're starting out and you're buying your first few properties with the sole intention of getting as much cash flow as you can to leave your job, HMOs are great. But when you've got a whole bunch of HMOs, you're financially free. I know you're still working, but you're doing it because I think you love motorbikes, which is cool. But yeah, that makes sense. So these in Bristol now, you're buying apartments.
So these are, well, the one today, it's a 2-bedroom flat. It's actually on a couple of levels. It's had brand new carpet in it already. I mean, it's a water tank as opposed to a little boiler, but because it's not running radiators, I can just put the smallest Worcester boiler in there.
How are you? I know you've bought it below market value.
Yeah.
How are you going to refinance it if you've not added any value to it?
I will add value to it. Well, firstly, it's a good price.
Yeah, it is.
The second thing is paint and staging make a hell of a lot of difference.
Sure.
And
Staging
actually,
meaning?
So it will be like a hotel. You'll have towels on the beds that are look like a goose or whatever.
Yeah.
You'll have furniture that is even IKEA. People say to me, how do I stage a property? Because women do it amazingly. I'm generalising, but they have the art touch.
The woman's touch.
Yeah, totally. And I don't have that. But what I do know is IKEA spend thousands of pounds getting designers to make sets that sell.
Yeah.
So why am I going to reinvent the wheel? I'm going to go and buy everything there and I'm going to stick it in my house.
Interesting.
And if they're selling it, I can sell my house on it.
That's very interesting. Yeah. So rather than paying an interior designer to help you, just rob it from IKEA.
Yeah, and for goodness sake, get them to come and build it as well.
Yeah.
Or if they don't come and build it, get someone whose business is to build it, because there's nothing worse than IKEA furniture if you're a property investor.
Mate, it takes days.
It'll drive you insane.
Days to flat pack just a few rooms. I've been there on my hands and knees back in the day. Really interesting. Also interesting, I don't know what your experience is, but when you're buying a property to refinance it, back in the day when we started out, you could just buy it BMV, below market value, and then refinance it.
Of course you could.
Now you've got to add value.
Yeah. Or buy it or buy it below current market value.
Yeah, but even then, sometimes valuers, have you not found valuers where they say, you bought it for this, and therefore, that's the new value?
Yes, but whenever I'm having a valuation, I will create a pack for my valuer.
Yeah.
It's not often that they turn it down. It will be all the local solds in the area.
Yeah.
All the things that, anything that backs up.
Undeniable, undisputable evidence that this is the value.
Yeah.
So that the valuer almost feels completely stupid trying to. Yeah, I get that.
They don't have to do their job. I've done it for them in the nicest way. But a valuer that I've created a pack for will see that I've done my market research. There are 5-10 solds within a quarter of a mile that I can prove that. I can go and challenge their evaluation. Also, and I'll happily take you on. Here's my folder of my evidence, right?
Also giving reasons to why you bought it so cheap as well.
Yeah.
If you can say, look, I was buying a whole portfolio, or this was the person's situation, and you can justify it. Another thing as well, Josh, that I find it really interesting is that there's more ways to add value to a house than just doing it up. You can also, if there's a problem with the lease, or if there's a flying freehold issue, or there's a covenant restriction, or or revaluing it based on commercial. So if you've now running it as a business and you can prove the rent.
HMOs are commercial. I think commercial funding is a whole different ballgame, but actually I find it's easier to get commercial funding for my HMOs than it is.
So the two questions are then is, number one, how can I get this property cheaper, or how can I find motivated sellers so I can buy properties below market value? And then number two is, how can I add as much value to this property as possible so that I can then refinance it and pull my money out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you planning on putting all your money out of this deal?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's about doing as many as I can.
Yeah.
But obviously being choosy about it. But the nice thing is about property, if you buy something that's really, really rubbish and you've overpaid for it, time forgives your property mistake.
So true.
As long as you don't have to sell it in the middle of a crash, it's almost forgivable.
Well, you can. The thing is, unless you're forced to sell a property, you're just going to sell it at a good time.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
you don't have to sell it. You just hold it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, one of my things is never put myself in the situation where I've overstretched any particular LTV, loan to value, on a property.
Explain.
So I will pull out all of my money to buy another deal. I will not use my portfolio as a cash machine.
Got you. So important.
Because people pull out hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds, and I sit down with a lot of property people, and if they're looking to work with me, I'm going to want to see their current portfolio to make sure they're high net worth. Because in some of the rules you have to be a certain level to be able to get a variable outcome deal.
Yeah.
So they need to have basically 250 grand's worth of equity. So show me your portfolio. And I sit down with people and I look at their portfolio and they pulled so much money out. If there's a 1% rise, currently it's the lowest interest rates I've ever seen.
Yeah.
A 1% rise, they make no money.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah. Bang on. Preach, bro.
I'm just not doing it.
So important, because if you're making good cash flow, then it doesn't matter what interest rates do, to a point. Or just fix interest rates.
And pay down your mortgages. 50 quid.
Yeah.
50 quid on each house.
Do that.
It's not going to kill your cash flow. But actually, thousands of pounds over the long term.
Yeah, I personally don't recommend paying off your mortgage until you're financially free, because the first goal has to be financial freedom.
Yeah, everything's got its time. You've got to have the timeline for your business.
Everybody thinks debt free, whereas I think financially free. Everyone wants to be debt free, which is stupid. That. Yeah, debt's great.
As long as I'm making money from it. And actually, the new landlord tax with regards to mortgages is very clever, because it's a tax on debt. Which, if the government can tax debt, they'll be making a lot more money than.
And it's the first time I've ever seen that it's the first time I've ever seen that being the case.
Yeah. It was trialled in Australia, and there was one other country, I can't remember where it was, but they pulled it very soon afterwards. Because actually the government relies a lot on us as landlords providing houses for people, and what they forget is we take stuff that's sometimes unlivable and bring it back into life. Yeah, well, and they just don't see that.
The only way you're going to make money is by adding value.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question then. You've obviously had some sort of challenges and you've overcome them.
Yeah, sure.
What have been the biggest lessons that you've drawn? Because I know you're a real doer. You've obviously done a lot of education. I know you've been through my training.
Yeah.
Which hopefully you found good.
I wouldn't be here if I thought it was rubbish, would I?
But what have been the biggest lessons?
The biggest lessons is don't be scared to say no.
Yeah.
No's a really great answer, and the more you say it, the less hassle you find yourself with. But when it comes to training, be very careful where you put your money, and just make sure that you're talking to someone that's doing what they are preaching.
Sure, because you've done a few different training programs, right?
I'm a fan of training because I actually put into practice what people teach.
Yeah.
I'm prepared to give it a go. There's a lot of people that come on lots of courses and don't. But for me, they're actually adding massive value. And if I get a couple of nuggets that make me a couple of grand extra on a few houses, it's worth it. So I think training totally has its place. The thing that I don't like is the huge selling seminars. Up your credit card and buy our course. Because the first thing I ever did when I got a bit of money was to go on a course. They got you to up your... actually, I didn't have any money. I had a credit card, which had about 2 grand on it. And they said, phone them up your credit card. Sure enough, up to 20 grand it went. And they said, great, you can buy the course. And that was my first house disappeared. Yeah. And actually, from that course, I got no more value than I would have done going to PIN meetings and that kind of thing. Yeah. I'm not prepared to bat about anyone or anything like that. No. But my lesson was, be very careful where you put your money. Yeah.
You know what? I run training. Some of it's free, some of it's paid.
Of course.
But I really agree. I wouldn't ask anyone to go on any of my paid for training until they've got a whole ton of value first from my free training. Yes. And that's how we roll. And I love that that you give so much to the point where people, if they
pull their finger out, they can actually go and do it.
Yeah.
But what people get stuck on, in my experience, certainly from when I'm mentoring people, they know what to do, they just don't know how to do it. And then once you've told them how to do it, they don't necessarily do it unless you give them a kick up the bum.
Yeah.
And that's when, okay, you know what to do, and it becomes you're kind of encouraging them. You're paying me, go and do the stuff, you'll get the results. And then it becomes important enough, because they paid for it, for them to actually do the stuff that they do in the first place.
I mean, I charge for some training because I think that if you don't pay for it, you don't value it the same way.
Yeah.
And that's why, I mean, we've run the Property Investors Crash Course, and our success rates are really high, but on the paid for training, it's even higher.
Yeah, you'll get people that, by putting a barrier to entry, you're in the nicest way, pushing out the tire kickers.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's an interesting one, but I think the most important aspect is make sure if you're paying someone to mentor you or to train you, make sure they're doing it.
Yeah, that's the biggest takeaway.
Like,
that's the biggest.
I live and breathe property. I'm buying deals all the time.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of qualifies me to teach it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, absolutely. So what's the next big things then lined up for you? What are you going to be doing over the next 12 months?
The next 12 months, probably 5 deals.
Okay.
I don't want to go too mental.
Yeah.
I've got a few things for me personally that I want to achieve, which is going to take a little bit of money out of the property pot.
Yeah. Anything beautiful?
Yeah, fairly beautiful. The reason I started a property business was to buy an F355 Ferrari Spider.
Nice. How much are they?
So they range between 60 and 100 grand.
Okay.
So it's not undoable.
Yeah.
But
it's hard to justify when you know how much.
But I can buy 2 houses with that 100 grand and get £800 a month for the rest of my life, and I go, I'll buy the Ferrari later.
You know what? It's so. I've just for the first time ever, I've just bought my first luxury car. In the past, I've rented or just
Yeah.
And it was, up until this point, I was able to justify it now, but I think until you are ultimately financially free and everything like that, the fact that you've held off until this point, I'm sure you definitely could have afforded it, but you haven't, because you always want to live below your means.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult because, as you say, if you think I could spend this 80 grand on buying 2 houses, which is going to make me, 800 quid a month or whatever, or I could use it to buy a car, which is going to depreciate. And last time I checked, it's not going to give me any rent.
Of course,
it's hard to justify.
It is, especially as my mindset is invest for the long term, and that kind of thing. But there comes a point where you go, okay, I'm going to treat myself.
Forget it. I've got enough cash flow.
So between now and 12 months time, I'd like to do that.
That's great.
We'll see. But yeah, it's that's on the cards.
So what's besides driving a Ferrari? What's your real strongest reason why? Why are you in this business?
Why am I in this business? I live and breathe property. I love it. It is exciting because it gives me profits. It's exciting because I feed off other people really enjoying it. If they're going out and doing the same thing, I get excitement from that. In the long term, I do want to support some charities. There's going to be time is going to suddenly become my friend. I'm going to have lots of time, so that I can go and do the things I want, but also I can help other people. Starting at the bottom with where I was 10 years ago, and then there is the other side of things where I like to give back. I don't publicly say it at all, but there was a time where I was living in a shed in on the side of the train tracks near Croydon. Nowhere to go. Didn't have any money, and it was like, okay, I need to pull my finger out.
How did that happen?
There's a couple of situations. There's always a few things that came together. So I had effectively I'd invested all my money, which was great. That was working. I wasn't necessarily doing the right thing. I wasn't getting any cash flow that would support me. And in the early days, I had given up everything to look after my parents. Then when they passed away, we were in a rented house at the time because of the rubbish investments. I'd paid all my money to cover my part of the rent for the next year, solely looking after my parents. And then when my mum passed away and my dad went into care, I had nothing left. Yeah. I was I was living in what was left of an old Mondeo. I was sleeping in a shed in Croydon. Now, there's two things you could do. Oh my, it was terrible. How terrible I was. It was -8 in the winter, and that was pretty cold. But I had a car and I had a shed, and I would go to my local boatyard because I could go and have a shower at 6 o'clock before they opened up. I could then drop my stuff at the dry cleaners, pick up my new clothes, get changed in my new clothes, and then I'd drive to property events and go, I'm doing property, if you want to come and have a coffee, let's talk about investments. And no one ever knew what was going on in the background. I mean, thankfully it was temporary and quite a long time ago, but it was like, I'm never ever going back to that point. And that gives you masses of drive.
That's incredible. So, I mean, was there a point, your parents lost an awful lot of money, you then had to support them and were living almost verging on homelessness. You then borrowed money to put into a deal with me, which looked like it was going to be a disaster at one point when the builders jumped ship. I mean, at that point, did you ever wonder, is this really going to work out?
Every week? It was like, am I completely insane? And my mindset was like, okay, you're either going to go under or you're going to make it. But if I can say that I tried and I do absolutely everything, I can start again because I have people that will lend me money. Yeah. And that was enough to know if it doesn't work out, I will recover. If I lose the money, I'll pay them back. I will succeed one way or
other.
Then
it makes it even worse when not only have you lost your own money because you've been looking after your parents, but when people have lent you money to invest it, it's
a huge responsibility. I mean, I've never lost anyone money, and I've always 100% of the time paid my
at that
my
point though. I know you spoke to me at that point. You came to this office, dropped the keys off. But to think how far you've come in 3 years. And what you're doing now, and you own all these properties, you're financially free, you've not lost any money on them.
No, I haven't.
You've paid back your investors.
Yes, and actually, at the beginning of this year, I paid nearly £100,000 back to my investors.
That's incredible.
Refinance, because I had one property that was owned outright, and I'd use that as a first charge to then buy other properties. And then once I'd done a few, and I'd kind of got enough investors on board, and over time, I decided that earlier this year I'd refinance that one, pull all the money out.
That's great.
That one bought for 73, HMO, you family rent to renter, thank you very much.
That's all right.
Paid me £800 a month for, it was bought cash, there was no mortgage or anything like that. So I did that for a couple of years.
I've always been there for you, Josh.
You've definitely helped me out massively.
What would you say to someone that was considering, maybe they're at a low point in their life and they were considering coming to the Property Investors Crash Course, because I know that was a big help for you?
It was awesome. I totally recommend it. There's one thing that I say to everyone: come along if you're going to do it.
Yeah.
If you're going to do the stuff, come do it and take action. If you're not going to bother, don't waste your time coming.
Just stay at home, watch your standards.
Yeah, your dead enders and
that's true. That's true, because at the end of the day, you've come on the show to inspire people and share your story. That's what I try and do. Share stories. All we can do is give people the tools, but ultimately you've got to do the work.
And it is constant work. It's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
But you can do it. I started with nothing, no property experience, no money, and guess what? I'm still not putting any of my own money in, and I'm building up a portfolio.
I think if you've got money to invest, you can do it passively. It's nice and easy.
Yeah.
If you've got no money, no experience, no network, you can still do it. But you've got to roll your sleeves up.
Yeah, absolutely. I had hundreds and hundreds of coffees with people saying, I've got this really amazing investment I found, do you want to invest?
Yeah.
And I screwed up so many coffees until I created a system. And it goes back to, you have to ask for money, going back to that 20p. I had to ask the investor for money. I was doing loads of coffees and they're, it's really interesting, but I wasn't going, do you want to invest?
Yeah.
Until I had answered every question that was ever going to be asked in the right way and then asked for the money, I didn't get any investors. So then I created a system where, I meet you X number of times, then we have coffee 1, coffee 2, coffee 3. Coffee 1 is, what do you want to do? Where are you? Coffee 2 is, this is everything that's going to go wrong. And I have a dedicated coffee to go, you will find dry rot, we will find damp, we will find this, we will find that. We're working together, we're going to look at it, and I will say, these are my 2 options, I suggest you go with this one, and we're going to work shoulder to shoulder. Yeah. This is a business relationship. And the third coffee is, this is all the money you're going to make, do you want to sign up? Or in the nicest way, shall I go and have coffee with someone else? Because there's more people out there with money than there are doing amazing property deals like us.
Yeah, that's great. And I love how you've learned from the not even mistakes, but I mean, I guess at school they teach you don't make mistakes. A mistake is bad, but in business and in real life, a mistake is good because it's just a learning point to get you better.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
At school, you're, like you say, drummed to don't make a mistake. I mean, actually, I'm completely dyslexic, right? So school was a complete nightmare. But actually, it allowed me to become a natural problem solver. Because if I'm writing a sentence and I get a word that I can't spell, I'll change the word or change the sentence.
Yeah.
And you're constantly going, okay, I'll do it this way, I'll go do it that way. Yeah. The government brings in another rule, okay, well, I'll do it this way. So I'm constantly adapting, and that's always been something I've been really good at, as well as obviously spotting the opportunities, which pulled all together. A VA to do all the admin work and ironically check my spelling. I have a group of sources. You were one of them when you were sourcing. To outsource that. I've now systemised the sourcing, and my VA in the Philippines sends me every week a spreadsheet of all the deals that meet my criteria, which is just delicious.
Fantastic.
So that's when suddenly things became faster, quicker, better, and it's like, and I could focus on the thing that I love, which was networking. Yeah. And going, hey guys, look at this. Do you want to invest? This is what I think is going to happen. Here's the risks. These are the documents I need for you to sign. If you're sourcing property, you need anti-money laundering regulations. You need liability insurance. There's a whole load of things that you want to do, but that will cost you probably less than a couple of grand. So if you sell one deal, you covered your costs.
Yeah. It's brilliant, and it's great seeing how you've snowballed. Your success just is getting bigger and bigger. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Pleasure.
It's always good to see you, and look forward to continuing working with you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you so much for watching the video. That is the reason why I'm doing this. Your success is my oxygen. Every single week we've got people becoming financially free. If you'd like to see more success students, you can do that right here. But what I'd really suggest is, why don't you come and join us at the Property Investors Crash Course. Come along, my guest, completely free, and I'll personally be there for 2 days to help you get started. You can see what happens right here. What you'll notice is all of these stories, they all start at the Crash Course. So come along, my guest, can't wait to see you there. Peace out.